By now, you've probably already seen the Kevin Hart roast on Netflix, and if you have, then you know we need to talk about the Katt Williams situation. This isn't new territory. Katt Williams and Kevin Hart have had public beef for years, and the tension has never really gone away. But it's been almost entirely one-sided in terms of who's been vocal about it. Katt Williams has never held back. On stage, off stage, on social media, in interviews, he has been completely unapologetic about how he feels about Kevin Hart, and he has never softened his position. The argument Katt has made repeatedly is that in 25 years, the two of them have never once been in the same building at the same time.
Done went 25 years without ever being in the same building with me at the same time. If I go in the building, he walk out. You've never seen us in the same building ever in 25 years. A 5-year period, every single movie that Kevin Hart did was a movie that had been on my desk. That all I had said was, just, can we take some of this step and fetch it shit out? And then I can do it. Like, it don't need to be overtly homosexual, because I'm not homosexual, right? It doesn't need that to be funny, right? And me saying that and them going, oh yeah, no problem. And then going to give it to this other guy and having him do it just like it was and acting like I'm a bad person because I keep standing on my standard. But yeah, it's interesting. But
At the core of Katt's grievances are some serious accusations. He believes Kevin Hart is a fraud. He's claimed that Kevin built his career borrowing heavily from his style and material. And beyond that, Katt has openly stated that Kevin Hart has made a name for himself through a kind of performance that he considers degrading, essentially playing a role to appeal to mainstream Hollywood rather than staying authentic to the culture. Now, personally, I'll be honest, most of the roast was pretty flat. It didn't really get moving until Katt Williams took the mic, and when he did, he single-handedly saved the entire show. That segment alone made the whole thing worth watching. But here's where it gets interesting. At the end of Katt's set, Kevin Hart walked out on stage and extended an olive branch, right there in front of everyone. The message was clear. We've both built something real, we've both been successful, and this has gone on long enough. Let's put it to rest. He came in for a hug, shook hands, and walked off the stage. A lot of people watched that moment and assumed the beef was officially dead. But if you've been paying close attention, you caught something important. Katt Williams never actually agreed to anything. He never said the words, he never confirmed a truce, and that detail is not small. What many people are walking away from that moment believing is that the tension between these two is very much still alive.
Him showing up to Kevin Hart's roast had nothing to do with them squashing beef. That beef is not squashed. I'm about to tell y'all some things about the entertainment industry that you cannot see unless you really tapped in for real. And this is just based off observation, what I've seen, what we have called to be true on the internet, and it came out to be true months later. And I have a mean sense of discernment when it comes to anything in any situation. First things first, let's think about who we know Katt Williams to be and how we know Katt Williams to act. He has very publicly stood on business for years about not being cool with Kevin Hart. Y'all mean to tell me after a year or two or coming off of Club Shay Shay, where he aired everybody out and everything he has said has rung to be true, why all of a sudden we see Katt Williams appear on a Kevin Hart roast and he has never addressed it? He has never spoken on it. They have never publicly spoken on it. Be for real. And another thing I want y'all to pay attention to is Katt Williams is a very genuine person. He's spiritually tapped in. I need y'all to realize he never once looked that man in his face or agreed to anything Kevin Hart said on the basis of them beefing. You got to pay attention to body language, the energy in the room, how everybody is looking across the room, passing eyes. Watch Regina King. Katt Williams made a joke up there on the pedestal about something about how Kevin Hart stole everything that he was supposed to be, like his image, and like he made a couple jokes after that, and you can see Regina King doing like a nervous, like, she's not laughing, but she's looking at the camera like, oh shit. You have to know, in the entertainment industry, everything is about $1. Netflix and Kevin Hart knew. You have to understand, they're marketing geniuses. They knew if they got Katt Williams to agree to roast Kevin Hart, it was going to go viral. It was going to make a lot of money. And it opened the door for them to do future business. But let's be honest, Katt Williams is smarter than that. He knew that this was a big ass money grab and he couldn't pass that up. I wouldn't either. Why would I not go make a bag off the head of the fucker that stole everything from me? Is you tripping?
He never agreed to a truce. He never gave any real indication that this chapter was closing. He accepted the handshake, stayed cordial for the cameras, and that was it. And there's one detail that slipped past a lot of people. It looked like Katt may have whispered something in Kevin's ear in that moment. What was said, nobody knows for certain, but it's hard not to wonder. That's speculation, and I'll be upfront about that, but it's the kind of detail that's difficult to ignore. Now here's something else worth paying attention to, because this is where Katt Williams truly separated himself from everyone else on that stage. Every other roaster did exactly what you would expect at a produced Netflix special. They glanced at the teleprompter, delivered their scripted punchlines, got their laughs, and moved on. You could feel the structure behind every set. It was polished, rehearsed, and safe. Katt Williams was none of those things. He never once looked Kevin Hart in the eyes. He barely glanced at the teleprompter. He hardly even looked at the camera. He just went, completely off the top, completely unfiltered, pulling from a place that clearly had nothing to do with the writer's room. He laid into Kevin Hart with a level of intensity that felt deeply personal, because it probably was. And that rawness is exactly what made his performance impossible to look away from.
Katt Williams did not read the teleprompter. He is the only one on the Kevin Hart roast that did not read the teleprompter. That man came out and he did a set. And let me tell you, this is why he's always going to be better than Kevin. He actually went out there and he literally, it was just, he don't like Kevin. He talked about the Illuminati. He talked about him being a puppet. The stuff that he said about Kevin, he reiterated in joke form, but it wasn't a joke. How he called him an industry plant, how he called Kevin a puppet. He said that he was in a homosexual relationship with The Rock. He said a whole bunch of stuff, and he didn't actually apologize. I just want people to pick, did you pick that up? He didn't apologize. He said, I said some things over the years, like calling you this. And then he reiterated with a joke. And I don't know if he really didn't, because he's the executive producer. There's no way that Regina Hall was going to introduce Katt without Kevin knowing. Especially because they've been so beefed out. Like, they've been beefing for real. They've been going back and forth for years. And the fact that, like, they showed Tiffany, because Katt and Tiffany were beefing too. It was Kevin and Tiffany against Katt. And Katt was slaying them. All right? He called Kevin homosexual. He told him the slay queen. Like, all funny, but they weren't jokes. This is why Katt is so respected. He said, I'm the only one up here that has a soul. Did anybody listen to what Katt Williams was saying? Because I don't think you did. Go back, rewatch it, and listen to how he was saying them jokes. They were not jokes, and I don't care what you say. He did not read that teleprompter. He didn't even look up at the teleprompter. He looked at the audience, and he told them jokes. And he told a lot of jokes not looking at Kevin. Katt Williams. That was probably the best I've seen. First of all, that's the best one of the night, because this roast is trash. But he came out there and he... Just watch it. I don't care what nobody say. Like, Kevin tried to stop him, was like, we're gonna do this in front of everybody on television live. We've been beefing out for years and we're gonna squash the beef. And Katt went in for the handshake, and Kevin brought him in for like the little bro hug, and they said something to each other, and then Katt grabbed his coat and he ran out. I don't care what nobody say. If I was Kevin, I would be pissed. Everything else was scripted. Katt was not. And I don't care what nobody say. That was the actual roast. It was Katt.
And none of this is happening in a vacuum. Kevin Hart's star power in Hollywood is not what it used to be, and that's something the industry has quietly acknowledged for a while now. But here's what really puts things into perspective. When you need to invite someone to your own roast who has spent years publicly dragging your name, who has made absolutely no secret about how he feels about you, and whose presence you clearly depend on to make the event worth watching, that says everything. They needed Katt Williams there, not as a courtesy, not as a surprise guest. They needed him because without him, the roast doesn't have that moment. And the fact that they went to someone with that level of public beef to carry the weight of the show tells you a great deal about where Kevin Hart currently stands in the Hollywood landscape. The balance of cultural credibility has shifted, and this roast may have made that more visible than anything else could have.
I actually think that Kevin Hart and Katt Williams squashed their beef at his roast last night. I have a bridge from California to China I want to sell you. Listen, there is no way these two squash their beef. Katt Williams is always going to tell you the truth, okay? And he said in his act that this was him selling out. He needed the money. And so that leads me to believe, although there's no way for me to confirm, that there is some sort of contract deal between Katt Williams and Kevin Hart. Katt Williams was actually dipping into Kevin Hart's money, even though Kevin Hart is still, working. The rumors were swirling, and people were looking at Kevin Hart sideways. And I don't know about y'all, but I watched his most recent special. It was not funny. I barely got a laugh out of Kevin Hart's special. So they're looking to Katt Williams to squash that beef. He's the one on higher ground. And so Katt Williams obviously found an amount of money that was acceptable to him as a father with children who are no doubt college age by now, a person who might want to retire at some point. He found an amount that was okay for him. And it wasn't lost upon me that he wore that large dark winged duck hat so that we couldn't see his eyes. And even when the time came to shake hands, although Comedy Hype News says that there was some hesitation, there was no hesitation. The man was shifting from foot to foot. He just did not want to shake that man's hand, but he realized he had to do what he had to do to complete the contract, to earn his money. And it's not lost upon me that that Kevin Hart waited until Katt Williams left the stage to get his lick back. But I assure you that beef is not over. They may have called a truce for financial sakes, but Katt Williams still don't like that man.
And that's the part that really landed, because it wasn't just comedy. There was real substance behind every word. Katt Williams wasn't up there fabricating stories or stretching the truth for a laugh. He said exactly what he has always said, doubled down on every position he's held for years, didn't sugarcoat a single thing, and still managed to deliver punchlines that had the entire room reacting. That's a rare combination. Most people can do one or the other. Katt did both. So let's hear from you. What do you think about how all of this played out? Do you think Katt Williams was speaking facts, or did he take things too far? And the bigger question, is Kevin Hart still the comedian he once was, or has something genuinely changed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is the kind of conversation worth having. That's all for this one. I'll catch you in the next.